what are your plans for the coming few months after the tour?
I think we're just gonna go and have a little break up until Christmas, and then we're gonna we're writing as well. So we're not having a break, like chilling out and not doing anything. We're gonna be writing some new material, and I think we're gonna plan on releasing some new stuff in the new year as well. So with that will come more UK shows, hopefully European and other destinations, with the year carrying on into festival season kind of thing.
And release new stuff, you mean close to New Year or just in the New Year?
In the New Year.
In the New Year, but early in the New Year, we've got some new material. So yeah.
And can you tell us anything about it?
I can tell you that it's not finished, but the ideas are in place and the intent is there. Yeah.
Okay. So, but something that is finished is your debut album.
Mm-hmm.
It was released early this year in August, right?
Yeah.
Now with a little distance to it, is there any specific detail of the album that you are especially happy with?
I think sort of the shows that we've played sort of since the album came out have been noticeably much better. I think people now sort of kind of know the songs and they have a sort of much better idea of what childhood is about. So the shows have been much better vibes. And
yeah, I think we were in danger of being pigeonholed a bit before we released the album, because there was a lot of lazy journalism that surrounded what we sounded like, and it was a limited perception that we just had no idea that they were on about, because most of the journalists that had written about us was just not even, it's just based on 2 songs. So now we have all these songs out, it's people are sort of responding to it a bit more, and people have more of a wider idea of what we're about, sort of thing. So that's quite a refreshing thing, because we've never had that before. So yeah.
So the album kind of developed your relation to the world.
Definitely. But yeah, it's been really good actually. I'm sort of really happy with the production of the album as well, because it was so, by the time we finished it, we felt like we were not rushing it, but we had to get it out. I had all these deadlines, so, and I couldn't really focus on the whole album as a whole. And listening back to it after a while, it's really satisfying to listen to, production wise. So I was really happy with that. So yeah.
Is there anything you would like to change on the album if you had the chance to do it?
Nah.
No,
not really.
I think as a sort of first album goes, I think it's what we sort of hoped we would create, and it's what we created. So, change comes after the first album, I think.
Yeah.
To create an album together as a group must be, at least at times, quite a tough process, I guess. During this creative process, did you find any new personality traits among each other that you hadn't?
Only bad ones.
Only bad ones.
No, not really. I think everyone was quite aware of how we all worked, because we spent quite a lot of time demoing the album together. So we were already and we'd kind of been with loads of different producers in the past. So we've always been in a studio environment kind of thing. So we weren't really surprised when we were playing together. It was more actually exciting, because to this album the surprising thing wasn't really the personalities, it was more playing together, because we've never really recorded an album as a live band in one room with no separation, just standing there kind of playing. So that was, if anything, it was sort of what we discovered is how fun it is to record live, really. But personality wise, everyone's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to move on to something completely different. Leo, there's a thing on Instagram, your fight dance.
Oh, the fight dance. Yeah. That's just.
What's the story behind this?
It's just a little something that I sort of came up with on the day, and it's it's good for it's good for the body really. And I make sure that I do it every single day.
I thought
for at least.
Yeah.
No, but I mean recently I sort of invented it on that day.
I thought you invented it before that day.
Oh, I did. Yeah. I invented it. I invented it a few weeks before it was sort of open to the public.
Conceived by the public.
But I just do it every day, just 5 minutes, and it just kind of keeps me on my toes.
It's his version of the sort of like insanity workout, condensed into 15 seconds of total insane body movement.
Exactly. It's good.
Has it inspired the rest of you in the band?
No.
It's just me. It's just me.
Yeah.
So, you got this remix from Sonic Boom. Someone scares. What did you know about him and Spaceman 3 before he remixed your song?
I've always been a big fan of Spaceman 3 since about, I don't know, since probably about when we started the band, started listening to them quite a lot. And yeah, I've just always been really into everything that he's done, especially afterwards, you know, like the Sonic Boom stuff and the Spectre stuff. So yeah, it was just very, very kind of one of those sort of characters that you hold as a sort of cult musical figure in your head. And then we just sort of by chance were playing the same festival that he was actually playing like kind of synthesizers on as a special guest for a band called Zombie. It was in Paris, or no, it was in Nantes. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, cool, amazing to meet you, you know. And then he watched our set, and we just talking for ages to him and his wife, and they were just really nice. And he just was really like open to help us out if we wanted it, and we did want it, and so we kind of carried on a sort of dialogue over the emails or whatever, and yeah, it just kind of culminated in him just helping us out with a release and having his own kind of interesting take on the song. So yeah.
So you had time to talk to him.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything like music-wise?
Yeah, definitely. He was even just the time, small like little just details, things like emails. He'd just saying, "Why don't you try this? Why don't you?" He did actually influence like elements of the production of that song, and like, you know, like the intro. That idea for that, and he just
also he wrote quite an amazing like sort of like press release for us. He wrote a kind of description of our music. I can't remember.
Peter Kemper wrote.
Like he wrote like a little kind of piece of kind of how he felt sort of when he listened to our music.
Yeah, and it was quite accurate to what we thought of it.
Yeah, well. I can't remember what it was.
There was comparisons to Henry VIII, a painting of Henry VIII, kind of elongated like. Little like ridiculous.
It was quite abstract, but it was
it was very abstract, but very cool.
Very cool.
But you felt that he was like pointing his finger on something.
Yeah. It felt like it felt right. It felt like what we feel like, I think. So yeah.
Could you because as I understand it, you have quite a kind of respect for him as could you describe that respect? What is it that he's good at?
I think what he's good at is I think he's got a sort of a history of developing a sound. So he started off with, which is like his basic kind of, you know, like his trademark, a Vox amp sort of thing with a big, you know, AC30 tremolo thing on it, and that started off with Spaceman 3, and then that started off a really kind of like primitive, kind of like sort of rock blues garage sound, and where he's ended up by this moment in his career, in which he's now actually doing more things than just making music. He's still making music, he's producing music, he's moved on to different kind of projects that kind of have developed from this sort of original kind of like sound, and he sort of created. You kind of have to respect his ambition and what he's actually achieved from that ambition. So it's more like kind of respecting his constant desire to develop himself. And I think that is quite inspiring for a musician that thinks of themselves as a creative person, to see that kind of evidence and how it can work. So someone like that can always inspire someone that wants to be equally like that, you know.
I think one thing that's interesting with like Spaceman 3 is that it's possible to hear which ideas are from Sonic Boom and which ideas are from Jason Spaceman.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Do you think, is it possible to hear that in your music, where the ideas come from, which band member
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to hear, like, if you know who writes it. But like, I think the other thing is as well that Leo doesn't really sing. So if he did sing, then you would notice where he was writing the most. But to me, I can tell like a Leo song, cause like a Leo chord progression, I can tell it. But
can you just describe a Leo chord?
Full of like sort of a nice mixture of kind of jazzy chords, sort of like refreshing jazzy chords meets pining emotional pop moments.
Yeah. I'll take that any day of the week.
That's how you would describe it.
Yeah, and I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I think Ben's more into sort of space. I think there's a kind of like spacious
Spacey
element,
intensity.
More kind of like sort of funky, kind of groove based sort of melodies. I think. Yeah, that's what I'd say about him.
Works well.